A buyer is not purchasing your EBITDA. They're purchasing their confidence that the organization can continue producing it without the specific people, the specific relationships, and the institutional knowledge that exists in the business today. Most sellers present the results. Most buyers are underwriting the capability. Those are different assets, and the gap between what the seller is presenting and what the buyer is actually evaluating is where the exit multiples compress in ways that financial performance alone cannot explain. This is case study 5. 5 assumptions that decayed across the hold period. All 5 arrived at the same place, a gap between what the governance process monitored and what a buyer actually underwrites. Organizational capability is where that gap is widest and most expensive. The assumption embedded in most PE underwriting is that organizational capability is a function of results. If the company is hitting its numbers, the organization is capable. If EBITDA is growing, management is effective. That assumption is embedded in the governance architecture of the hold period. The board reviews financial performance. The operating partner monitors initiative progress. Results are treated as evidence of capability. Results are evidence of past capability. They're not evidence of transferable capability. And transferable capability, the kind of buyer can underwrite as durable beyond the current leadership and the current operating context, is what determines the exit multiple. A company can produce strong results through individual heroics, key person dependencies, and operational knowledge that exists in the heads of 3 people and nowhere else. That company will produce the results the seller presents. It will not produce the conviction the buyer needs to pay full value for them. In shorter holds, the gap between results and transferable capability was smaller and less consequential. When a PE-backed company was held for 3 to 4 years, the team that built the results was largely the team that presented them at exit. The institutional knowledge was in the room. The buyer could evaluate it directly. That continuity no longer characterizes most holds. At 6+ years, most portfolio companies have experienced meaningful leadership turnover. The CFO who built the financial reporting infrastructure may not be the CFO presenting the numbers. The VP of operations who designed the process improvements may have left in year 3. What the buyer sees is a current team presenting historical results. The question they can't answer from that presentation alone is the capability that produced those results embedded in the organization or embedded in the individuals who built it and have since departed. The longer the hold, the larger the gap between the results the seller presents and the capability the buyer needs to verify. Most governance processes do not close that gap. They widen it. Organizational capability decays in 3 directions across a hold period. First is key person concentration. Operational knowledge concentrates in the people who have been there the longest. When they leave, the knowledge leaves with them. What remains is the documentation of a process the current team executes differently than the document describes. The second is process formalization decay. The improvements that produce EBITDA gains in year 1 and 2 were owned by specific people responding to specific problems. By year 4, those people may have moved. The improvement still appears in the financials through inertia, while the discipline that produced it has softened. The third is management depth. A buyer evaluating a 6-year hold PE-backed company is not just evaluating the current CEO. They are evaluating whether the organization can operate through a transition, whether capability is distributed across the team or concentrated at the top. Most governance processes monitor the CEO's performance. They do not assess whether the organization beneath the CEO can sustain the results without the CEO. The consequence does not show up as a variance in the monthly package. It shows up as a discount in the buyer's multiple, a discount that is difficult to negotiate against because it's not based on financial performance. It's based on conviction. A buyer who believes the EBITDA is real but doubts the organization's ability to sustain it will apply a risk discount at the multiple, not the EBITDA. That discount compounds across every element of the buyer's underwriting. Revenue discounted for customer concentration, margin discounted for key person dependency, growth discounted for management depth uncertainty, integration risk premium evaluated for operational opacity. A buyer does not pay a premium for EBITDA they trust, and not an organization they do not. They apply a capability discount across every line of their model simultaneously. The seller sees one exit multiple. The buyer applied the discount 5 times before arriving at it. This is why companies with nearly identical financial profiles trade at meaningfully different multiples. The financial profile is what the seller presents. The organizational capability is what the buyer underwrites. And that assessment is formed in reference calls, second-tier management interviews, and operational walkthroughs, not in the financial model. Most exit processes are prepared to defend the model. Few are prepared to demonstrate the capability. Ask who owns the organizational capability inside a PE-backed company, and the answer involves a combination of the CEO, the operating partner, and the board's compensation committee. None of them own it as a governed assumption, formally assessed at defined intervals, reported with the same rigor as financial performance. The board reviews EBITDA monthly. It reviews organizational capability almost never, not because the board doesn't care, but because the governance process was not designed to surface capability as a measurable, governable asset. Organizational capability is the asset the buyer is purchasing. It's the one major value driver in a PE-backed company with no formal governance process, no defined measurable standard, and no named owner responsible for ensuring it's transferable at exit. This is not the CEO's failure. It's an accountability architecture failure. The governance was designed to monitor results. It was not designed to govern the capability that produces them. The mechanism is a question the board has almost never formally asked. If the 3 people who most understand how this business actually works left tomorrow, what would a buyer be purchasing? Not what the documentation says. What a buyer would find when they look beneath the financial results and asked whether the organization can sustain them without the individuals who built them. Most boards don't have the conversation until the exit process begins and diligence surfaces the gap. By then, the window to build the capability has closed. The window to disclose it hasn't. 5 case studies, 5 assumptions, 1 structural failure. Labor, the value creation plan, the exit thesis, technology, organizational capability. In each, the assumption was reasonable at entry. The governance monitored performance. The cost accumulated or capability decayed in ways too distributed to trigger formal reevaluation. The consequence arrived at exit, when the options to correct it had narrowed to accepting a discount or extending the hold. The governance was designed for a different era. Shorter holds, simpler businesses, a financial environment that subsidized execution gaps. That era is over. The governance architecture has not been rebuilt for the ones that replaced it. This is not a management problem. It is not a talent problem. It is an operating system problem, and the industry has not yet built the operating system the current environment requires. That is the research question this channel will continue exploring. Not what the operating system should look like, but why the industry that depends on it most has not yet built it. My name is Preston Leahy, and that is why I am the go-to for payroll in private equity, nationwide, no exceptions, no rivals. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.